Hollis Cray woke up every morning at 5:15. Same time. Didn't need an alarm. His body had been doing 5:15 since the Carter administration and wasn't interested in renegotiating. He'd swing his legs off the bed, feet hitting the cold hardwood floor of the farmhouse he'd lived in for 40 years, walk to the kitchen and whatever he'd slept in, start the percolator, the old kind, the kind that sounds like a small engine trying to clear its throat. While the coffee worked, he'd stand at the kitchen window and look out at his 80 acres in the Ozark Hills north of Mountain Home, Arkansas. The pasture sloping down toward the creek, the equipment shed with the door that hadn't closed right since '97. The 3 cows already standing at the hay ring waiting for breakfast, and Thor, standing at the front steps, waiting for the door to open, every morning, 9 years. That bull was at those steps before the coffee was done. 1,200 pounds of Charolais cross, white with a cream tint, standing on the gravel like a man waiting for his ride to work. Hollis would come outside with his mug, take a sip, and say the same thing. "Morning, big man." Then he'd walk to the barn, Thor walking beside him, and they'd start the day. By 6:15, the cows were fed. By 6:45, Hollis was back in the kitchen eating 2 eggs and toast. Same breakfast since Eleanor died. He'd tried changing it once, made oatmeal, felt wrong, went back to eggs and toast the next day and never thought about it again. 7 o'clock, he'd get in his truck. A 2004 Chevy Silverado with 243,000 miles that he kept running through stubbornness and a relationship with the parts counter at O'Reilly's in Mountain Home. He'd drive down the county road to check his fence lines, waving at whoever he passed. Patsy Greer getting her mail, Donnie Stiles in the postal truck, old Ray Jessup on his tractor. Hollis wasn't a talker. He was a waver, a nod and keep moving kind of man. Everybody knew him. Nobody knew him well. That was how he liked it. Back at the property by 9. The rest of the morning was whatever needed doing. Fixing a gate hinge, patching a water line, clearing brush along the fence where the cedars crept in every spring like they were trying to take the pasture back. Arkansas doesn't let you sit still. The land always has an opinion about what you should be doing next. Thor followed him through all of it, not helping. A bull can't hold a wrench or cut wire, but present. Standing 10 feet away while Hollis worked, watching with that patient expression of an animal that has decided this particular human is worth keeping track of. If Hollis moved to the south fence, Thor moved to the south fence. If Hollis drove to the barn, Thor walked to the barn. If Hollis stopped and leaned on a post to catch his breath, because 71-year-old lungs don't do hills the way they used to, Thor would stop too. Stand there. Wait. No hurry. No impatience. Just, "I'm here when you're ready." 2:30 every afternoon, Hollis walked to the mailbox. Quarter mile down the gravel driveway to the county road. Thor walked with him, side by side. Donnie the mail carrier got used to seeing them and stopped being surprised years ago. Some men walk with dogs. Hollis walked with a bull. Different animal, same principle. Evenings were the quiet part. Hollis on the front steps with a glass of water. Thor lying in the yard. Sometimes Hollis talked. Full conversations. About the weather coming in from the west. About what the news said. About Eleanor. He talked to Thor about Eleanor the way you talk to someone who knew her. Except Thor had never met Eleanor. She died in the spring of 2015. Cancer. The slow kind. After she was gone, the house got quiet in a way that Hollis couldn't fix with a radio or a phone call. So he bought a day-old bull calf from a dairy in Yellville for $50, bottle-fed him in the kitchen next to the wood stove for 2 months, and built a life around an animal that didn't need him to be anything except consistent. That was the deal. Show up at the same time. Say the same words. Walk the same route. And in return, never be alone in a house that used to have 2 voices and now only had 1. 9 years of that. Ordinary. Repetitive. The same steps. The same glass of water. The same bull lying in the same yard. The kind of life that doesn't make the news because nothing happens in it except 2 beings keeping each other company while the days pass. Then Hollis died. A Tuesday morning in October. In bed. Cardiac event. No pain. No struggle. The coroner estimated 6 to 8 days before anyone found him. His coffee maker was set on a timer and had brewed and cooled and brewed and cooled for a week. The lights on timers went on and off. The house performed its routine without the man who'd set the routine in motion. But the bull knew. Not the way humans know, not with facts or logic or the understanding that a heart can stop. He knew the way animals know, by absence. The door didn't open at 5:30. The coffee smell came, but the footsteps didn't. The walk to the hay ring didn't happen. The mailbox trip didn't happen. The steps in the evening were empty. Everything in Thor's world had stopped, and the only thing his brain could process was, something is wrong with my person. He's in there. He's not coming out. And nothing gets in until he does. Thor moved to the front yard, between the house and the road, and he stood there. For a week. Patsy Greer noticed first. Hollis's truck hadn't moved. His mailbox was full. And the bull was in the yard. Not in the pasture where he grazed. Not at the hay ring. Not anywhere he was supposed to be. In the yard. Facing the road. Not eating. Not lying down. Standing guard over a house that contained everything he'd ever loved. She called the sheriff. Deputy Kyle Enders drove out, got 40 feet up the driveway before Thor stepped into the road. Not running, not aggressive, just placing himself between the vehicle and the house. 1,200 pounds of animal that had decided nobody was getting through. Kyle radioed dispatch, got animal control. Dwayne Puckett, 56, the county's one-man livestock response unit. Dwayne knew Thor, had seen him walk to the mailbox with Hollis 100 times, knew the bull was gentle, knew something was deeply wrong for him to be acting like this. It took 3 men 45 minutes to move Thor into the side paddock using a stock panel and a cow from the neighbor's pasture to lure him. 45 minutes of a bull who didn't want to leave his post. Kyle and the sheriff walked to the house, found Hollis, called the coroner. Outside, from the paddock, Thor was making a sound that Dwayne had heard exactly twice before in 30 years, both times from cows that had lost calves. Low, sustained, not a bellow, not a warning, a searching sound. The sound an animal makes when it's calling for something that should answer and doesn't. He's been calling for him, Dwayne said quietly, for a week, standing there, calling, and nobody came. The days after revealed what the community had mostly missed. The nephew in Charlotte, Caleb, drove down, walked the property, looked at Thor in the paddock. I need the property cleared by end of month. The bull goes to auction with the cows. Auction meant salvage price. $800 for a 9-year-old Charolais cross with no breeding value. A feedlotter processing within the month. An animal that had been someone's only companion for 9 years, sold by the pound. Dwayne went home, sat in his kitchen, called Dr. Caswell. Rena, if that bull goes through Mountain Home Sale Barn, what happens to him? He's gone within a month, Dwayne. Nobody buys a 9-year-old bull for anything except weight. He wasn't being dangerous when he blocked that driveway, was he? No. He was being exactly what Hollis raised him to be. Present, loyal, showing up. He just didn't know that showing up wasn't going to fix it this time. Dwayne drove back to the Cray property the next morning. I want to buy the bull. Caleb stared at him. Why? Because somebody should. $800. Dwayne wrote the check, backed his trailer to the paddock gate. Then he did the only thing that was going to work. He talked to Thor. Not commands, not handling voice, just talk. The way Patsy had described Hollis talking to him for 9 years. I know you're confused, big man. I know everything stopped and nobody explained it. I can't bring him back. Nobody can. But I've got grass and water and a place where nobody's going to sell you by the pound. You just need to get on this trailer. Thor stood at the far side of the paddock, hadn't eaten in days, coat dull, eyes flat with the cortisol shutdown of an animal whose bond had been severed without warning. Dwayne opened the trailer, stood aside, waited. 11 minutes. Thor walked to the ramp, stopped, looked back at the house one last time. The steps where Hollis sat, the yard where he used to lie down, the driveway they walked together every afternoon at 2:30. Then he stepped on the ramp. That was 14 months ago. Thor lives on Dwayne's 12 acres now, shares a pasture with 2 quarter horses and a retired dairy cow named Maxine. He's not the same bull. He doesn't follow Dwayne the way he followed Hollis. Doesn't walk to any mailbox. Doesn't lie in any yard. That was Hollis's routine. And without Hollis, the routine has no shape. But he eats. He grazes. He lets Dwayne's wife Cheryl scratch behind his ears at feeding time. His coat came back. His weight came back. Dr. Caswell says his cortisol levels have normalized. He's surviving, Rena told Dwayne. For an animal that lost the only bond he ever had, surviving is enough. Every morning, Dwayne brings feed and says 2 words. Morning, big man. Same words, same time, same voice, every day. Because Dwayne understood that routine is the only language left when the person who spoke the first language is gone. You can't replace the voice. But you can show up at the same time and say the same thing and let the animal's nervous system learn that consistency didn't die with Hollis. It just moved. Cheryl asked him once why he bought a bull he didn't need for $800 he didn't have. Dwayne took a while. Because he spent 9 years loving a man who had nobody else. And when that man died, the bull stood in the yard for a week waiting for him to come back. That's not livestock. That's loyalty. And loyalty like that shouldn't end at a sale barn. Thor stands in Dwayne's pasture most evenings, not facing any direction, not guarding anything, just standing the way old animals stand when the day is done and there's nothing left except being alive for one more night. He's not waiting anymore. Dwayne doesn't think so anyway. He thinks Thor has finally accepted that the footsteps aren't coming, that the door won't open at 5:30, that the walk to the mailbox is over. But every once in a while, on a Tuesday morning, usually, Thor will lift his head and look toward the east, where the sun comes up over the Ozark Hills. And he'll make that sound. Low, sustained, the searching sound. Just once. Then he puts his head down and goes back to grazing. Dwayne hears it from the kitchen window. Doesn't say anything. Doesn't need to. Some sounds aren't meant to be answered. They're just meant to be heard.